So out in the rural Andes of Peru, you've got this huge gap that just opened up between an ambitious government policy and the very people it was supposed to help. It's a classic story, really. A big top-down idea colliding with the reality on the ground. And it shows us something pretty powerful about where real change actually comes from. And really, this whole thing boils down to one fundamental question. What happens when a big, well-intentioned idea meets the messy, complicated real world? Well, as we're about to see, sometimes the most incredible innovation is born from that exact friction.
Okay, so the big idea at the heart of our story is a global education policy. It's called Intercultural Bilingual Education, or IBE for short. And on paper, man, it sounds amazing. So what exactly is IBE? Well, it's an approach that's designed to give Indigenous students an education that isn't just in their native language, but is also rooted in their culture. The whole point is to say, hey, your unique knowledge, your language, your way of seeing the world, that's not just valuable, it belongs in the classroom.
And the goals, they're huge, they're inspiring. We're talking about building a society where lots of different cultures can thrive side by side. It's about affirming the identity of students who've been pushed to the margins for so long, fighting back against deep historical inequality, and, this is key, seeing diversity not as a problem to be solved, but as a nation's greatest strength. So that's the promise. But as this big idea actually hit the ground in rural Peru, it became super clear that something was missing. It was a great principle, but a principle without a real plan.
The author of the study we're looking at, Laura Valdiviezo, she just nails it here. She says the idea of interculturality just stayed, well, abstract. Policymakers had the what, this great idea, but they totally forgot the how, the actual teaching methods you need to bring it to life.
And this is exactly where it all fell apart. See, the training for teachers was all about the bilingual part. How to teach kids to read and write in both Spanish and the local language, Quechua. But that whole intracultural piece, the part about actually weaving local culture and knowledge into the lessons, that was pretty much left out entirely.
And you can just feel the frustration from the teachers on the ground. Listen to this teacher, Wilfredo. He's basically saying everything that makes our community who we are, our worldview, our knowledge, it's supposed to be right here in the curriculum. But it's not. The official program was just completely cut off from the students' actual lives.
So, what do you do when the system just leaves you hanging? When there's no roadmap? Well, in this vacuum, something pretty amazing happened. The teachers themselves stepped up. They became the innovators, and they started forging their own path forward.
Think about it. No manuals, no official training, nothing. They could have just waited around for instructions that were never going to come. But they didn't. They chose to invent, building lessons completely from scratch, based on their intuition, their creativity, and their deep connection to their community. And just look at the brilliant things they came up with. Instead of the boring old national calendar, they created a communal calendar based on what was actually happening in their village. Harvests, festivals, you name it. They brought the community's powerful oral traditions right into the classroom. And get this. When a student just spontaneously launched into a long story in Quechua, the teacher didn't shut it down. She celebrated it.
Okay, check out this example. It's perfect. For a lesson on the potato harvest, one teacher literally took the entire third grade class out to the local fields, the chacras. The kids interviewed farmers in their own language, Quechua. Then they brought all that information back to the classroom and turned it into math. They made bar graphs from the data they collected. Come on. That's real, hands-on, intercultural learning right there.
But, as you can probably guess, this kind of on-the-ground creativity doesn't always sit well with the official top-down system. These teachers were about to crash right into a wall of bureaucracy.
So remember Wilfredo, the teacher we heard from earlier? He worked with parents to organize this beautiful, deeply important ceremony called a Pago a la Tierra. It's a traditional offering to Mother Earth. And they did it right there on school grounds. It was this amazing moment connecting the school directly to the heart of the community's culture.
And then, an official from the Ministry of Education shows up for a visit. You'd think he'd be amazed, right? Wrong. He actually ridiculed it. He shut the whole thing down, saying it wasn't a legitimate school activity. Can you just imagine how devastating that must have been for the teachers, the parents, and especially the kids?
That whole incident, it really shows us something important. For these teachers, this intercultural education thing wasn't just a box to check or a new teaching method. It went way, way deeper than that.
They understood interculturality as vivenza,
which is like a lived experience. It wasn't a technique you use in the classroom. It was a moral commitment, a principle for your entire life. The idea was you can't just teach it, you have to live it in everything you do.
And once you start thinking that way, it leads you to a pretty radical question. If this is all about respect and understanding between cultures, then why are we only teaching it out here, in these rural, indigenous communities?
And this is where Wilfredo just drops the mic. He says, look, we're the ones who face discrimination when we go to the city. So the city is exactly where this education needs to happen. Wow, think about that. It's not just for indigenous kids to learn about themselves, it's for the dominant culture, for the rest of society to learn too.
And that right there, that's the big lesson in all of this. It's a lesson that goes way beyond these small schools in the Andes.
At the end of the day, the researcher came to this amazing conclusion. These teachers weren't just implementing policy, they were making it. Through their actions, their creativity, their resistance, they were the ones creating de facto policy right there from the ground up.
And that's the big takeaway for all of us, right? Their story is proof that if you want real, meaningful change, you have to listen to the people you're trying to serve. You have to trust them, you have to empower them, and you have to value their knowledge. They're the ones who really know what's needed. They are the experts.
So we end up with this final, crucial question. It's not just about a big idea meeting the real world anymore. It's about power. Who really gets to define what a meaningful education is? Is it the officials in a faraway capital city? Or is it the teachers, the parents, and the students in the community? That's really something to think about.